Chris Brown on the call there. One of the highlights of the season at Highmark Stadium. Just announced the U.S. hockey rosters are being announced. Tage Thompson will be going to the Olympics with Team USA. They ran the graphic across the screen on today's show in such a way that it was difficult to see the names.
It was so quick.
Very weird.
They went in from the sides. Like, I'm looking for, did Jason Robertson make the team? Because that's been a big thing. And you never were able to see it.
Yeah, I don't know.
And they haven't gone back to look. So I have no... Oh, here it is again. They're doing the same thing.
It's with the women's team. Again, it's difficult to see the names.
You could never read all these names.
A bold way to do this, anyway. On to the final game at Highmark. So Tage Thompson going to the Olympics with Team USA. Chris Brown joining us on the Western Hotline ahead of Bills-Jets in the final game at Highmark Stadium. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. How's the season, this kind of march to the end of Highmark Stadium's time hit you? And do you feel like now that we are in a spot where it is very likely the last game, that it's kind of all coming home now?
Yeah, it is. For those of us who work down at One Bills Drive, we've been doing a lot of things through the course of the season to prepare for this. So it's been squarely on our radar a bit earlier than it has been for most. Now that, we're just a couple of days away from, the last regular season game there. So it's been there. It's kind of something that's been out there, and now it's here. So I guess it is kind of hitting a little bit different. I was actually thinking this morning, the better part of my 30 years as a broadcast journalist, I've been driving out to this stadium, 20 years as an employee of the team, but even before that, just covering the team. And I was like, and then I remembered, as a college student driving up from Geneseo with some of my Buffalo-based friends experiencing Bills games for the first time. And I recalled, I totally forgot this initially, but I remembered I was at the 95 wild card game, Bills-Dolphins, when David White makes the interception in the fourth quarter of a tie game and the Bills go down and kick a field goal. I was sitting in the tunnel end zone for that. So, yeah, it's just I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of thoughts and memories kind of flashing into their brain like I was this morning.
Yeah. And, it's happening in the midst of a season where Bills are having a good season, maybe not the same kind of season they've had in the last couple seasons, but that does kind of allow us to focus in on what Sunday will be, which is the goodbye game.
Right. And they do want to win the game. I think we know that because they can improve their playoff seeding with a win and a little bit of help. But at the same time, there's going to be this tricky balance with player health and going into the playoffs as healthy as possible, knowing there have been previous seasons where that hasn't been the case. But I think it will be a very nostalgic atmosphere. I think a lot of people are going to be taking a lot of extra photos, knowing they're not going to get another chance in the building to, remember what has been a very big part of their weekends for generations.
Steve Tasker and Thurman Thomas announced as the legends of the game, and we know that is it going to be you get the idea it's going to be a who's who down there come Sunday, Chris?
Yeah, I think there'll be some familiar faces rolling out there in addition to Steve and Thurman, but what good ambassadors for the team, right? A Hall of Famer and a Wall of Famer who, lived here post-career, still do. They're part of the fabric of the history of this team. So I'm confident they'll do a heck of a job out there, provided they don't get choked up themselves.
Right.
They're both emotional guys, so you never know.
Yeah. Looking back, Chris, what ends up being like one of your top memories for the stadium or your number one memory as you look back on your time going back to the 90s for you, right?
Yeah, like I was saying, I was a college student for all 4 Super Bowl years, but by 1995, I was going out there once a week for an oldies station up in Niagara Falls covering this team. And then, between 95 and 96, I didn't have a game day credential yet. So I got to a couple of games as a fan. And then after that, I haven't missed a home game since 97. So, yeah, it's been a stretch. And Jeremy knows this because I always talk about the 2003 opener. Who doesn't like a game in which Tom Brady throws 4 interceptions, right? So I think he had 6 career games with 4 interceptions. 2 of them were in Highmark, the 2003 opener and the 2011 Week 3 comeback by Fitz and company to beat them. What was that, 34-31,
Yeah.
I think. So, yeah, I mean, those were two special ones. And then you have, like, the more nondescript ones that sometimes slip through the cracks of your memory, like Week 2, 2013. I think it's EJ's first home start.
Mm-hmm.
And they come down the field and, throws it to Stevie with 2 seconds left. They win 24-23 with the extra point. Like, during the drought years, those are memories. Big wins like that. I mean, people might laugh at it now, but that was a memorable win for a lot of Bills fans that suffered through the drought.
Yeah, I remember that game in the stands. I think that it ends with Stevie, but if I remember right, like Fred Jackson had 4 catches down the field, 5 catches. Like, it was a lot of him driving down the field.
Yeah, and, for those that don't remember, he initially was ruled to be in the end zone and scored a touchdown. Or no, now I'm thinking
that's the other one.
That's 2011 New England.
And then they kneeled on it and kicked
blending.
from there.
Yeah, drought game. That happens. Yeah.
Well, it'll be a great atmosphere, no doubt. And then, of course, there are a couple things to track, Chris. We've got James Cook maybe looking for the rushing title, which that might not be that difficult to figure out what they want to do. We'll see what Jonathan Taylor does in the 1 o'clock game and then go put a number on the board and see if James Cook wants to chase it down. It'll be interesting to see how much they'd be willing to do that, right? If it's 15 yards, then okay, let's go out and get that. But if it's 68 yards, that might be different. Where do you come down on how they should handle that?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for me because I think we all know what an important part of this offense he has been. I mean, the identity of their offense now kind of runs through him to some degree. I mean, and not for nothing, guys, the Bills are also the number 2 rushing team in football now. The Ravens overtook them this past week with Derrick Henry's 200-plus yard effort at Green Bay last week. They're the number 1 rushing team in football now. And they're going to be going full bore, as you know, in the winner-take-all game between them and the Steelers Sunday night. I know that offensive line would love to have the rushing title because there's not many stats for old linemen to hang their hat on, but I think everybody's got to remind themselves the top priority is the healthiest team possible going into the postseason. I think the hope is James plays in the first half, busts one for 65, and is in good shape, and you can sit him down for the second half, tell him to put on his pom-pom hat and be a cheerleader the rest of the afternoon. But that's for more important people than me to determine between now and Sunday.
Beyond Allen and Cook, who else is top of your list for guys you think probably should get a rest this Sunday?
I think Bosa being a little nicked comes to mind as a prime candidate for this. I think Deion Dawkins is a candidate for this. You're blessed at the tackle position with uncommon depth, so maybe give that guy a seat for the week. So I'm sure there'll be a handful, but as we know, guys, you can't sit everybody because you can only dress 48 if you're dressing 8 offensive linemen, and you only have 2 practice squad elevations. So people are like, oh, just sit everybody that's important, and it's not that easy. It is very much a juggling act for the coaching staff.
I just asked Sal this, that if it's mostly or all Trubisky and a handful of backups that are playing for the Bills this Sunday, Chris, what do you expect in terms of a challenge from the Jets? Like Sal, and I'm with him, feel like there's still a really, really good chance the Bills could win this game, and maybe easily. I mean, the Jets have played bad. New Orleans, they lose by 23. Miami, they lose by 24. Like, even when they've played subpar teams lately, they're still not competitive.
Yeah, they're largely non-competitive and have been for the better part of the last month. I know that Aaron Glenn actually admitted they did not have the effort last week against the Patriots. Now, does that inspire them to bounce back? I don't know. In my mind, and I said it last week when I was on with you guys, Mitchell Trubisky is more than capable of beating Brady Cook and the New York Jets. So I have no qualms about playing Mitch, the full game outside of maybe the first snap, and off you go. And you should be good enough to beat a Jets team that has, for all intents and purposes, mailed it in for the season. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident they can get the job done.
Chris Brown on the Wester Hotline. Chris, thanks for the time, and have a good call in the final game at Highmark.
All right, take care, guys.
803-0550, our phone number. Our thanks to Chris there, and we'll talk to him on Monday, of course, as part of Buffalo Bills Football Monday, and then we turn the page to the playoffs. Chris's appearance brought to you by Northwest Bank. For what's next, get started at northwest.com. By Northtown Volkswagen, Western New York's #1 VW dealership. Shop online at northtownvw.com. And by Lockport Outdoor Store, high-impact gear for hard-working men and women.